Good evening and welcome to Daily News Simplified. In another session of DNS dated 24th of September 2024, we are going to discuss the following articles with respect to your civil services examination. With respect to the mains, we have taken the articles which appeared on the very first page of the today's The Hindu, that is with respect to POCSO Act, and then second article is with respect to the recent comments made by the Tamil Nadu governor with respect to secularism in India. From the standpoint of your prelims examination, we will be discussing the following articles, that is the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, Koodiyattom and Rhino Population. All of these have been taken from today's The Hindu newspaper. So without further ado, let us begin our session. So the first article, the inspiration to which has been taken by the news that appeared on today's The Hindu, that is watching child sex abuse material is an offense. It has been recently declared by Supreme Court. And another interesting development that has been taking up in Maharashtra is with respect to the incident of a janitor who was accused of raping a school child has been also developing, right? So what is the context with this with respect to this issue of child sex abuse? What are the various legislations? What are the limitations of those legislations, and what should be the way forward? We will be discussing in the upcoming session. So now, what is the context of this news? The Supreme Court has overturned the Madras High Court decision. Remember this decision of this Madras High Court, which was being challenged by an NGO in the Supreme Court, with respect to the judgment of the Madras High Court, which was mere possession or storage of any pornographic material is not an offense. Previously, pardon, Madras High Court had given such a decision in some prior case, which was challenged in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has overturned this decision. What is the syllabus mapping with respect to this? In your paper GS paper 1, in Indian society, this part is relevant with respect to Indian society, with respect to the vulnerable sections. With respect to your GS paper 2, the topic is subtopic is social justice and legislations with respect to the vulnerable sections of the society. And in past, there has been a pertinent theme, be it your essay paper or your GS paper 1 or GS paper 2. And in 2019 there was a question that what are the continued challenges for women in India against time and space. So, although there has been no explicit question on issues related to children, but this part also pertains to this particular issue of child sex abuse, because most of the cases, more than 99% of the cases are committed against girls. So now, before entering into the topic, let me at the outset give you some facts about child related crimes in India. As per the latest data that is available to us, that is 2021 data, NCRB reported more than 51,000 cases under this particular legislation, which governs the issues related to child in India, that is POCSO legislation, right? And 64%, that is majority of the cases were reported under very grievous sections. For example, section 3 and section 5 talk about penetrative sexual assault and aggravated penetrative sexual assault respectively. We will understand what is the difference between penetrative sexual assault and aggravated penetrative sexual assault, right, in the later part. Then, on the further analysis, it has been revealed that 99% of the cases were committed against girls. However, this pattern is changing lately, and as observed by the various NGOs, for example, state of Chhattisgarh is reporting such kind of offences against male childs as well, right? And it was seen further in such cases that most of the girls were either disowned or abandoned by their families or are orphans. So, orphans again constitute a very vulnerable section of the society. There was a very famous case of Muzaffarpur shelter home, right? You must be remembering that case, and particular politician was also convicted in this particular case of Muzaffarpur shelter home case, right? So now let us understand the key provisions. What are the key features of this POCSO Act? The Protection of Child from Sexual Offences Act was enacted in 2012, right? It was enacted way back in 2012. What was the intended purpose? To address sexual abuse and exploitation of children. What are the key features? The key features are it is a child centric legislation. That means it does not discriminate between a girl child and a boy child, that is a girl, female child and male child. It treats children as children. It is a children, one of the first legislation in India which was with respect to children. Then again, another feature is gender neutral. That is, it does not discriminate between girls and boys. Another feature with respect to this is prior to this, the issues were dealt under Indian Penal Code. But again, this brought in key features. For example, the Act added 10 years punishment. The Act added 10 years as a punishment in case you are being prosecuted under the POCSO Act. Act also set up various special courts with respect to addressing and speedy trial with respect to the issues related to children. Then this particular act made it mandatory to report such offences, and in case any person, for example, a sexual assault happens in a school, a sexual assault happens at, for example, someone's gym, right, so on and forth, right. So the act made mandatory for the authorities concerned, just in case certain offense has taken place. Because earlier what used to happen, the authorities, or for example school authorities, you would try to nip this problem in the bud, that don't try to report this crime, let it be, uh, please be mum, right. So what did it lead to? It lead to further victimization. It led to further victimization of the victim, because victim was pressurized to keep silent. Now if after these provisions there is a mandatory reporting, and just in case later on the thing comes out that the authority or the administration, for example the school administration, did not, they pressurized the girls to keep silent, then action would be taken not just on the perpetrator but also the authorities. Then another key issue was with respect to establishing very child friendly procedures with respect to reporting of the crimes. For example, the evidence gathering, the sample collection would be taken up at the convenience of the child. You understand what why these features are introduced, right? Because it is understood that a child who is less than 18 years of age has a very vulnerable and impressionable and a very immature kind of mind that is not fully developed so as to take decisions in their own interest. So, for this reason, various mandatory reporting procedures, friendly procedures were introduced in this particular case. Further on, the Act also added punishment for false complaints. Now, why was this added? Because earlier, what used to happen that so it is a pertinent issue in the society as well, that the relationships which are made with the consent are also because of the society. For example, there is an intercaste relationship between a consenting boy and a girl. Then what would happen that the parents of the, for example, girl child would accuse or would threaten that we will file a false case against the family of the boys. So keeping the social realities in mind, punishment for false complaints were also added. Nevertheless, this act was doing well, but in 2019, various amendments were carried out. The details of those amendments you will find in the PDF that would be sent to you. However, the key essential details are this particular act, keeping in mind the social changes after COVID 19 and the advent of social media, right, and internet technology, it defined child pornography, right. So it is in this context our present day's article is in news. Similarly, it also increased the punishment for heinous crimes, for example, aggravated assault and then murder of the child. The maximum punishment has been increased from 10 years to 20 years. And in some rarest of rare cases, if the victim has, if the perpetrator has shook the conscience of the collective society, there are provisions of death penalty as well. Then again, it has also introduced new categories of various new categories of punishment as well in the 2019 amendments. Now again, furthermore, let us discuss what are the issues arising of the implementation of the POCSO Act. We already understood what are the key features associated with the Act. Let us try to understand what are the issues arising of the implementation of the Act. Now, the first issue, which is one of the pertinent issue with respect to all the bodies in all the executive, be it judicial body, right, in India, is overburdened courts, right? Although special courts were about to be sanctioned with respect to POCSO Act, but there is a lack of enthusiasm when it comes to judiciary. Moreover, special courts have been implemented or established in the metropolitan cities, but there is less enthusiasm to set up various POCSO courts in the smaller districts, right? Similarly, another issue, first issue is with respect to lack of judicial infrastructure. Second issue is with respect to police infrastructure as well. Since most of the cases are associated with respect to the crime against the girl child, but you see, what is the representation of women constabulary, women in police? The representation of women in police is almost close to 10%. Various committees have recommended to increase it up to nearly 33%, but as of now, the women in police is very close to 10%. Then another issue is with respect to infrastructure, with respect to counseling. See, that child who has gone through such kind of ordeal is of impressionable mind, right? So that particular child needs counseling as well, but we are not having adequate psychological counseling infrastructure available with us. Similarly, another issue is with respect to low conviction rates. Why is it so? Because again, there is a provision of going to the home of the victim. Why is it so? Because victim should not come to the court in such sensitive matters, because victim is of less is of age of less than 18 years, right? So there is a provision of going and recording digital evidences, right? But now what happens to these digital evidences in the locker rooms? Because we are not having proper infrastructure with respect to preservation of these digital evidences, right? So what happens is that this evidence becomes corrupted and it is not able to be presented in the court. Similarly, another problem with respect to low conviction rate is witnesses turning hostile. Again, in these cases, sometimes what it happens is that, for example, let us take an example of a girl child on which this kind of incident has happened, and let us say her friend is at the prima facie, she has become ready to give her testimony, but later on, what will her parents say? Her parents would say that, let us you please avoid giving the testimony, because of this your name could be sullied, or our name could be sullied, that yes, you were also present with the same girl at the same time. That could happen. So in these particular cases, this is a ground challenge that witnesses turn hostile very much, right? Similarly, another issue is with respect to underreporting, false reporting, or misuse of this particular case. Now, why do we say that this case or this law is fraught with underreporting of the cases? There is a particular problem with this kind of social crime. Now, what has been observed by various sociologists is that in this particular crime is committed or has is undertaken by someone who is known to the girl child, right? For example, it could be the for example, in this Badlapur case that we were discussing, this particular accused who has been shot down by the police, it is said to be the janitor of the same school, right? There are certain cases in which, for example, the girl's uncle, right, so on and forth, their own relation, the persons who are in their own relation have been accused of committing such crime. right? So in what does it say? Ultimately their own parents sometimes pressurize them not to go open with these kind of cases and just keep it in the nip it in the bud. Similarly, another issue arising of this particular incident is victim blaming. And then lastly, with respect to another particular issue is overlap with the JJ Act. For example, the victim as well as the perpetrator both are juveniles. So in the Juvenile Justice Act, the perpetrator, because he is less than 18, right, right, so he will not be given very much stringent punishment, right. Now, another recently emerging issues in this particular POCSO Act is criminalization of consensual relations, right? So, in this particular context, even the Law Commission has given various recommendations that criminalization of consensual relationships which are of less than 18 years should not be done in the name of POCSO Act, right? Why? Because POCSO Act is being misused to criminalize the consensual relationship between a couple which is less than 18 years. Then another issue is with respect to the rise of pornography and cyber crimes, right? So why is it happening? After it is observed that after the COVID-19 era, and especially with the penetration of internet and mobile, there is a spike in the category of persons, right, who are watching more and more pornography in India. So there is a rise of pornography and associated cyber crimes, right? So, for example, making video of the victim and then threatening to leak it in the social media or another various social media mediums, right? Then another issue is with respect to increased litigation, and all of them combined. Another upcoming issue is with respect to the rehabilitation of the victim, right? So the approach of the judicial system is to punish, right, the victim. Yes, that is one front, that is acceptable, that should be done. But what are you doing with respect to rehabilitation of the victim, right? Perpetrator ko so it is okay to punish it, send it to the jail, so on and forth, but what are you doing to rehabilitate the victim of the crime? So the POCSO Act lags in this context, that we are not thinking about the rehabilitative approach with respect to the offenses related to children. Now, what can be the suggestions and way forward? What can be the way forward in this context? So, first suggestion is to strengthen the investigation and judicial process to ensure proper training for law enforcement and judicial staff to handle POCSO cases sensitively, efficiently, and minimizing the delays. Now, instead, what is happening? Police is conducting encounters. You must be, the news is already trending that Badlapur accused has been already encountered by the Maharashtra police, right? So, what should be the approach? To prosecute, not to encounter the victim, right? Then another issue is with respect to awareness and reporting. There is a, because it is more like it is not just a legal problem, but it is a social problem. So there should be an increased public awareness to reduce the stigma associated with respect to reporting of child sex abuse cases, and this should be the way forward. Then another issue with respect to which the POCSO Act lags is with respect to rehabilitation and support to the victims. So this should be provided, and then there should be balanced punishment, right? Although this chemical castration process has not been introduced in India, but people, for example, various NGOs, right, for example, various social groups are demanding that more stringent punishments for example, such as chemical castration of the accused should be undertaken. So we need to have a relook that should these kind of stricter punishment should be undertaken in this case or not. Then further recommendation is to equal focus on rehabilitation measures and improve child friendly procedures. So with this we can conclude the article with respect to POCSO cases for today, and let us move on to another issue with respect to secularism in India. But before this, let us try to see this particular practice question. Examine the effectiveness of protection of children from sexual offences, POCSO Act 2012, in addressing child sexual abuse in India. So, first part is to examine the effectiveness of POCSO Act, discuss major challenges in its implementation, and suggest measures to overcome them. So now, when we have to adjudge the effectiveness of POCSO of any particular act, how do we approach this question? First, we to provide key features, right? First, we provide key features, and then when we have been asked to adjudge these key features, we also at the same time, after giving key features, we also judge their efficacy, that whether these features are only in the book or they have been practically implemented as well or not. Later on in the second part of the question, discuss major challenges. Then we move on to the second part of the question. What are the major challenges associated with this implementation? And then lastly, we have also undertaken various suggestions and way forward. So last aspect would be suggestions to improve its working. So this should be the architecture of your answer. So you please try and attempt this particular question. Move on. Let us see the second topic for the mains for today. What is the context of this news? That Tamil Nadu Governor Sri R. and Ravi has remarked that secularism is essentially a European concept which was introduced during emergency. So what he means is that even though our constitution says that India is a sovereign, socialist, secular democratic republic, but essentially secularism is a European concept and it is not very useful in Indian conditions. So what is the syllabus mapping with respect to this topic? Our GS paper 2 syllabus says that historical underpinning and salient features of the constitution. And in past, there have been direct questions. For example, in your GS paper 2, there was a question in 2019 that what can France learn from India's constitutional approach to secularism, right? And then in your GS paper 1, in 2018, there was a question how the Indian concept of secularism differs from Western model of secularism. So there has been a debate around how is Indian model of secularism differs from Western model of secularism. For this, first we need to understand what is the concept of secularism, right? So secularism is as a concept can be seen as doctrine. So secularism is what? It is a doctrine to religious hegemony, religious tyranny, and religious and religion-based exclusion. So it is a doctrine that can be seen against or in opposition to religious hegemony. That means the traditional doctrine is of religious hegemony. That is, so let us understand the history of secularism in Europe to understand this. Earlier in the Dark Ages, what used to happen is that the church had overarching influence over the state. Various scholars, for example, scholars like Machiavelli, suggested that church should be separated from the affairs of the state. That means there should be no say of religion in the affairs of state, that is secular affairs. So secularism as a doctrine, it stands opposite to religious hegemony. What is religious hegemony? Hegemony of religion in the terms of uh, functions of state, right? Religious tyranny and religion based exclusion. So what does it ensure? In modern times, it ensures that the social political order is free and institutionalized, and to ensure inter-religious equality between believers and non-believers. What does it ensure? I can be a Hindu, you can be a Muslim, she can be a Sikh. Yes, we are all equals because Constitution guarantees for us equal citizenship and equal rights. So that is essentially the meaning of secularism in India. And at the same point, the affairs of the state should ideally be separated from the affairs of religion. That means India has no official religion per se. So, what are the constitutional provisions when it comes to the doctrine of secularism? The very first is the preamble of Indian Constitution says that India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Although the word such as secularism were not the part of original constitution but introduced later on. However, Article 15 and Article 16 give us right to equality. That means even though the word secularism was explicitly introduced in preamble, but the constitution and its morality already had secular principles in its mind. For example, Article 15 and 16 that is associated with right to equality. Similarly, Article 25 and 27 guarantees freedom of conscience that is given equally to everyone. That means the state is enabler of all the religion. The state sees all the religions equally. Similarly, Article 28 guarantees that all there is no religious instruction in various institutions run by state. That means state is keeping religion or theology out of the study of various government institutions. Similarly, Article 29 protects the script, language, etc. for all the religions, and Article 30 ensures that every religion can establish their own educational institutions, right? And similarly, Article 325 which pertains to, what does it pertain to? That voter list and voting rights, they are not given on the basis of religion. That means there can be no exclusion or inclusion of any voter based on their particular set of religion or beliefs. Similarly, these constitutional provisions were further strengthened by various landmark cases of Supreme Court. The very first case in which the Supreme Court called secularism as the basic structure of Indian Constitution was Keswanand Bharti case. The Supreme Court called that yes, secularism constitutes the basic structure of the constitution, and in upcoming SR Bommai case this idea was further reinforced, and the Supreme Court further remarked that secularism in India means that state of state or union of India looks at all the religions in an equal manner. That means there is no preferential treatment of any particular religion, right? But however, the there was a little bit of schism, and in Smail Faruqi case, Supreme Court allowed or used the doctrine of eminent domain and said that although the minorities or minority institutions have various rights, for example, they have the right to own land, right? For example, Waqf Board has the right to own land, but that does not mean that state cannot take land from various religious institutions after giving them due and fair compensation. And then Supreme Court applied the doctrine of eminent domain and said that yes, in certain challenging situations state can intervene in the affairs of various religious institutions. And similarly, in the recently given triple talaq judgment, Supreme Court gave preference to individual rights over religious rights, right? So individual rights triumph collective or religious rights when it comes to triple talaq judgment. So although religion secularism has been considered as basic structure of the Indian constitution, there have been over the period various modifications also when it comes to the understanding given by judiciary, right? So now let us try and compare various models, for example Western model of secularism with Indian notion of secularism. Well, let us try to understand. The Western model of secularism leads to complete separation between religion and state. There is a strict compartmentalization, uh, in theory at least, that religion should be separated from state. Yes, but however, in India, various thinkers, for example, scholars like Ashish Nandi, Rajiv Bhargava, right, they say that there is no complete separation, but equality and respect to all religion is the notion that is Indian model is called as principled distance model. This name is given by Rajiv Bhargava, an eminent scholar in this field, that Indian notion of secularism is giving equality and respect to all religions, and it is called as principled distance model. Similarly, here individual rights are kept at center stage Here, collective rights are also given due diligence. However, this doctrine is again taken a setback after this triple talaq judgment, because here Supreme Court said that individual rights of women are more important than collective religious rights, right? Another difference between the Western model and the Indian model is with respect to no open display of religion except for religious institutions. That this particular example can be drawn from France. There is very strict separation, and then there was a debate around hijab in France couple of years back, right? Here, the difference is that followers are freely able to practice the religion, and religion is in fact supported by the state, right? For example, state gives grants to build some certain institution. State sometimes give grant to build uh, various developments, right? For example, state is conducting Char Dham Yatra also, right? So that is the difference between the Western model and the Indian model. Next is state does not provide monetary aid to the educational institutions, but here what we have seen, state even provides monetary aid to various institutions to maintain the institutions, and financial aid is provided to by the state. Next is no provision for state supported by religious reforms. Here, the state is actively contributed to religious reforms such as abolition of untouchability and child marriage. Right. So here, the notion appears to be a bit negative in nature. Here, the notion of secularism appears to be a bit positive in nature, because all the interventions which are being carried out, be it child marriage, be it abolition of untouchability, so on and forth, they seem to be progressive in nature, and that is why it is called as Indian model of secularism, that is fit for Indian conditions. Lastly, another issue is that there in most of the Western societies, you take example of France, you take example of Portugal, there is a single uniform civil code that is present to deal with civil laws. Here, although the debate is ongoing, you must have seen various DNS videos in which we have covered the topic of uniform civil code, but as of now, there is no presence of any uniform civil code with respect to personal laws, right? Then let us understand what are the various challenges with respect to secularism in India. So it is said that secularism should be preceded by secularization of the society, right? Society should be ready to take up secularism as an idea that yes, religion is confined to your home or the church. However, the affairs of state should be different or separated from the affairs of the religion. So in India, we have imposed the idea of secularism from above. Like most of the ideas in the constitution, we have enforced this particular idea of secularism from the above or from the top, and spirit of secularization in the society has not been taken place. So again, what Ambedkar used to say, that some of the provisions, if they are not taken up by the society itself, these ideas would remain like a topsoil, right? So secularism is one of the ideas which has remained a kind of topsoil in India. Another challenge with respect to secularism is rising religious extremism in India. Various cases of religious extremism erode the faith of Indian society when it comes to the issues around secularism. Next is with respect to identity politics. Where does it come out in the forefront? In the elections, be it assembly elections, be it general elections, right? Identity politics means politics played on the issues of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or sons of soil theory. So all these contaminants of politics come out in the electoral time. So identity politics again plays an important role when it comes to the notion or concept of secularism in India. Next is with respect to global impact. Globally, when we see that the mood, right, of the Western world itself, it is going towards right. the global mood with respect to the West is also moving towards the right wing politics. So that is also, and right wing politics, what does it mean? The right wing politics is much nearer to the religious faith. So right wing politics means that there should be less separation between religion and state. And when right wing politics is on the rise in the Western world as well as the developing world, it leads to the decline in the values of secularism. Next challenge is with respect to low development of minorities. Next, another issue is our electoral system itself. The first past the post system does not recognize the second person who is coming on the second position, right? So the first pass of the post system leads to ignoring the minorities from the electoral process. And next issue is with respect to administrative victimization. By this, what do we mean? Victimization by police, the judicial system, right? So on and forth. That means minorities are also victimized by the administrative machinery of the state as well. So now what can be the way forward? So there are various recommendations given by various law commissions. There is a specific committee which was set up by the Shri Rajendra Sachar, which gave various recommendations with respect to development of minorities, such as setting up of equal opportunity commission, creating a nomination process to increase participation of minorities in public bodies, that there should be representation of minorities in public bodies, establishing a delimitation procedure. See, what is happening here is that while we go for distribution of seats, generally what is seen is that practically what happens is uh, the seats where there is a substantial population of minority present, those seats are reserved, very tacitly reserved for the scheduled caste communities, so that minority could not, a person coming from minority could not gain entry from that particular seat. So this kind of practice should also be checked. Then there should be necessary changes made in the Model Code of Conduct Representation of People's Act, so that hate speech during communal during elections should be kept at bay, right? Then there is a need to introduce secular values in education. Furthermore, there is a need to strengthen National Integration Council and National Commission for Minority. So these are the recommendations which have been given by various other committees, including the Sachar committee. So this is all you can read and address and take notes upon. We conclude this topic, but let us see a practice question based on the above concept. Critically examine the debates surrounding secularism in India. What should be the approach? Define what is secularism, then address what are the debates or issues around secularism. What are the practical challenges faced by this particular idea in our multicultural society? So this should be, and then you address the third part of the question. Please try to write these questions, that is for your own benefit. With this, we move on to the second leg of our session, that is, we'll be taking up MCQs for your prelims examination in a while. The first article that we are going to take is with respect to Food Safety and Standard Authority of India. What is the context of this particular article? The context is that FSSAI has sent notice to the firm that supplied ghee to Tirupati temple in Andhra Pradesh. So they have sent a show cause notice to the authority, that is the body that, or the private firm that used to uh, uh, sell ghee to Tirupati temple in Arunachal Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh. Why? Because there is allegation that beef oil, right, or beef based ghee has been found in the laddus of Tirupati Tirumala temple, right? So now let us understand various aspects related to this particular news. First, we understand what are the various common adulterants found in food. So the first aspect is milk. Milk is adulterated with water, detergent, fat, and even urea is found in milk. In past, UPSC has also focused on various common adulterants that are found in food. Tea leaves are similarly adulterated with various other colored leaves, right? Similarly, spices are adulterated with cornstarch, sawdust, flour, right? Then meat and poultry is adulterated with antibiotics and various hormones, which are although favorable in promoting the growth, but the challenge is that these are harmful for the individuals. Similarly, khoya is adulterated with refined oil and skimmed milk powder. Here we come to the ghee, which on which the news is based. It is adulterated with vegetable oil and animal body fats. So now the clear basic economics is that ghee is available for 700 to 750 rupees kg. Now what is happening here? The body used to sell ghee to Tirumala Tirupati at the rate of 350 rupees per kg. Now how are they able to bring in these catch up with these differences? What are they doing? Most likely they are using vegetable oil and using certain kind of essence in those oils, or they are using animal body fats to manufacture ghee. Similarly, fruits and vegetables have adulterants like pesticides, and fishes or seafood has various adulterants like lead and mercury. Similarly, arhar dal is adulterated with maternal yellow, which gives it a brighter and much better color. Similarly, adulterants are also found in the shape of nitrates, right? And various foreign substances such as insects, dirt, so on and forth also constitute various adulterants in the food. Now, let us understand what are the various laws with respect to adulteration in India. The issue of adulteration is of concurrent list in India. That means both states and central government can make laws in India. Some of you who might be appearing in various state exams as well, there is a post of food inspector, right? So this food inspector means state is making various laws and regulations with respect to food safety standards, and similarly FSSAI is the central authority to make rules, regulations, so on and forth with respect to various food standards. Similarly, another law or statute dealing with the food safety is Food Safety and Standard Act of 2006, and the recently introduced Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita section 247. It imposes penalties including imprisonment, fine, and so on and forth as a punishment for the person who adulterates food. What are the key features of the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India? It prohibits any person to operate a food business without a license. First thing is that you need to obtain license when it comes to having a business associated with food. The law prohibits producing, selling, and distributing contaminated or counterfeited food. That is the second feature when it comes to Food Safety and Standard Authorities of India. And then Act also imposes heavy penalty for the possession of adulterants, or if the adulterant is found in food, there is a provision for heavy penalty and even cancellation of license when it comes to the food uh, vendors, right? So now let us understand key facts about the body, that is FSSAI, right? It is a statutory body created under the statute, that is FSSAI Act, that is 2006. Then what is the nodal ministry associated with it? It falls under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The objective is to establish a single reference point for all matters relating to food safety and its standard. What are its various functions? Function first is framing the regulations associated with food safety, then laying down the guidelines, right? What does this guideline mean? For example, there is an adulteration of monosodium glutamate in Maggi. So first, it will lay down the guidelines with respect to checking and standards for the labs, and then it will ask the labs to check various foods from time to time. Then third aspect is providing scientific advice and technical support to central government of India with respect to maintaining the standards of food that are being used in India. Similarly, collecting and collating data regarding food consumption, contamination, and emerging risks. For example, even food can cause or food associated with, for example, fishes, poultry, right? So there are, from time to time, there are various diseases that come to be known that yes, this particular disease is being found in certain fishes or certain poultry. So its objective is to collect data with respect to various food consumption patterns, and in case there is certain disease or certain flu that is being found, it is their duty to give up an advisory, that is dissemination of information when it comes to promoting awareness about food safety and nutrition in India. So based on the above information that we have just received, there has been in past direct question on Food Safety and Standard Act of 2006, to which the correct answer was A. Similarly, on the similar lines, let us try to solve this particular question. Consider the following statement. Adulteration is an intentional act of degrading the nature or quality of food. Yes, this appears to be correct. Yes, adulteration is an intentional act that degrades the quality or the nature of the food. Yes, under the Indian Constitution, food adulteration falls under the union list. No, even the state governments in India, as we have just seen, state government in India can also make various rules and laws with respect to food standards in India, but those should not be contrary to the already made central laws, right? So statement 2 is incorrect. Similarly, the Safety and Standard Authority of India is a statutory body under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Is the ministry correct? No, it is incorrect because it falls under Ministry of Health. Right. So, how many of the statements are correct? Only one. The right answer is A. Next, we move on to the second topic, that is Koodiyattom. This particular news appeared on page number 6 of the Hindu. What is the context? Choliyattam, an informal initiative, has been started in Kerala to preserve various different styles of Koodiyattam. Right. So now let us have a few pointers with respect to what is Koodiyattam. It is a performance theatre art. It is a theatre tradition which is practiced for over 2000 years in Kerala. So this performance art is 2000 years old, and in recent times UNESCO proclaimed it as a masterpiece of oral and intangible heritage of humanity. That this particular stature was accorded to Kudiyattam in 2001. Later on in 2008, it was accorded its place in the representative list of the intangible culture, heritage, and humanity in 2008. However, the word Kudiyattam is derived from Malayalam word, which means it is a combined act, that is a fusion of ancient Sanskrit theatre with elements of Kuthu, that is Sanskrit theatre plus Kuthu is an art from Sangam era. That means it is a fusion art of Sanskrit and Sangam era literature, right? So again, for us, what becomes important is various theatre traditions and the respective states. We have confined for this session. We have confined ourselves to the four southern states of India. For example, in Karnataka, the theatre traditions which are famous are Yakshgan and Bayalata. So these are all theatre traditions of Karnataka. When it comes to Kerala, the most number of theatre traditions are from Kerala, that is Kalariyapattu. You must have, it is a martial art kind of theater tradition. It is used for self-defense as well as theater. It is used in theaters as well. Similarly, Theyam, Koodiyattom. Koodiyattom is this particular theater form which is in use. Similarly, Kathakali, Padayani, and Thopavakutu are various theatre traditions from Kerala. From Tamil Nadu, Therukuttu and Bomalattam are two theatre traditions, and when it comes to Andhra Pradesh, Burra Katha and Pagati Veshalu are the theatre traditions when it comes to Andhra Pradesh. So, in the past, there have been direct questions from various art forms and various associated states. uh, Let us try to solve a practice question based on the similar theme. So, Thayyam, is it from Kerala? Please tell me. Yes, this is from Kerala. So, this is correct. Kudiyattam, is it from Tamil Nadu or Kerala? It is from Kerala. So, this matching is incorrect. Burrakatha, is it from Karnataka or Andhra Pradesh? It is from Andhra Pradesh. So, again, third is incorrect. And Bayalata, is it from Andhra Pradesh? No, it is from Karnataka. So, how many of the pairs given above are correct? Only one pair, that is the first pair is correct. Other three pairs are incorrectly matched. So, your answer would be only one. With this, we come to the last topic for today, that is associated with the slight increase in the rhino population globally. This particular news featured on the science page of the news, today's The Hindu newspaper, right? So, what is the context of this particular news? The rhino population across the world has increased slightly and it has reached close to 28,000 rhinos globally. However, the issues such as poaching, that is predominant in Africa, and habitat loss, that is prominent in South Asia, right? Asia, basically, South Asia and Southeast Asia remain key concerns globally for the rhino population. Now, what are the key facts associated with rhino population globally? What are the key facts? Once again. Now, what are the key facts associated with the rhino population? When we see globally, there are 5 species of rhino in the world, right? We will see one by one what are the 5 key species of rhino in the world. So, in this particular 5 key species, white rhinos have risen the highest in their number, that is from 15,000 individuals to uh, close to 17,500 individuals in 2023. The black and greater one rhino population has remained stable. We will see one by one what are the 5 species and subspecies of rhinos in the world. So, the white rhino is again subdivided into two subspecies, that is northern white rhino and southern white rhino, right? So, what is the issue pertaining to white rhino? The northern white rhino is technically extinct. Why? Because there were only three uh, individuals left of this species, out of which one was male, and the male unfortunately died. So there are only two female northern white rhinos alive as of now, and uh, they are in protective custody, right? So only two females are there. So since there is no male to reproduce, so they are considered to be technically extinct with only two females in the sanctuary, uh, that is in secure conservancy in Kenya, right? So we'll see one by one all the 5 subspecies of rhino in the world. The first subspecies of rhino is greater one-horned rhino, that is found at once upon a time it used to roam freely in the northern areas of India as well. You see, at one point of time they used to roam in the areas of Punjab, Haryana, and the belts of UP as well. But however, right now they are confined to various Tarai regions and Ganga Brahmaputra Delta regions. You can see that the various sanctuaries are there in on the borders of India and Nepal, India and Bhutan, right? So on and forth, right? It is the largest of the rhino species identified by a single black horn. It is called as one-horned rhino because it has got only one horn and gray-brown hide with the skin folds. What is the IUCN status with respect to this species? So this species is found in India and other subcontinent continental parts of India such as Bhutan. Right? What is the IUCN status? It is vulnerable in nature. Second subspecies is Sumatran species. This species is the smallest species of rhino in India. They have two horns. As you can clearly see, two small horns are visible right here. They have and they are dark gray to black in color, right? Because they are very small in size, they are very fast runners and are very agile also, and their IUCN status is critically endangered. When it comes to the third species, this is Javan rhinos, that both of them are found in Indonesia, right? They are the most threatened of the five rhino species with only around 60 individuals that live in Java, right? So again, one is practically extinct from wild, and then this one is only 60 adults are left, right? They are very similar to appearance and to the greater one-horned rhino, that is Indian version or Indian subcontinent version of rhinos. They are very similar to appearance, but the caveat is that they are found only on the Javan island. What is the IUCN status? Critically endangered because only 60 individuals, right, are left. Next, fourth subspecies is black rhinos, right? They are native to eastern and southern African countries. Again, clearly these two are very similar in nature. The only difference is that it is black in color and it is white in color, right? Black rhinos, that means they are most of the rhinos are herbivorous in nature. The key distinctive feature is first they are black in color, and second is that they have two horns. Here is first horn, here is second horn. What is the IUCN status? These are also critically endangered. Again, we come to the white rhino species. We already covered that this species is divided into two subspecies: northern white rhino and southern white rhino. Northern white rhino, the status is that only two females are left, right? However, when it comes to southern white rhino, they are the most abundantly found rhino species when it comes to the subcontinent of Africa, right? So the majority is found in South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. They are right. This particular species is the only subspecies that is not endangered, and their IUCN status is near threatened in nature, right? So based on this particular information, in past there was a direct question on the status of various animals that are found in India. For example, Asiatic lion, double-humped camel, and one-horned rhino. So similar pattern, we have framed a question on the status of rhino population and conservation efforts globally. Read the first statement. The white rhino population has shown a significant increase in the recent times. Yes, this statement is correct because earlier the white rhinos were around 16,000 globally, but now in 2022 survey they have risen by around 1500 in number. So yes, this statement is correct. The northern white rhino is considered threatened with only few individuals remaining in wild. Is this statement correct? So no, this statement is incorrect because it is not considered threatened, it is considered extinct, and there are no individuals remaining in wild. There are only two females which are in captivity in Kenya, right? So this statement is incorrect. Third, wildlife poaching is the top threat to rhino population globally. Yes, this statement is correct. And the rhino population worldwide has decreased from approximately 50,000 at the beginning of 20th century to around 28,000 today. Yes, this statement is also correct. Prior to the beginning of 20th century, they used to roam freely and there were around 50,000 rhino population back then, but right now it is only close to 28,000 today. So how many statements are correct? Option B is correct. That is, second statement is incorrect. Rest of the statements are correct. So with this, we conclude the session for today. Hope to meet you soon. Thank you. Please, if you like the video, put a thumbs up, and we hope to meet you soon. Thank you, and that would be all for today's DNS.